10 seconds.
Hey, it is Wednesday. Fox 10 Talks.
You sounded like, hey, Fat Albert. I'm old enough to remember.
Yes, I got it. Well, hey, I'm Trenton Hooker. This is Brian Webb, and we're joining you this afternoon. And wow, we just wrapped up quite the conversation.
We did.
Unknown if you haven't watched it yet. A lot happening there.
Yeah.
This week.
The AI 3i Atlas just is the gift that keeps on giving.
You think we get it right.
I know, sorry.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
Yeah.
I once called it 3-1 Atlas.
Yeah. But hey, we've moved on.
All right,
then.
yeah. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, so that's the gift that keeps on giving. I guess it's going to be at its closest point to Earth on Friday.
Friday, it's happening.
And if it was to turn on us, what do we do?
It's over.
Where do you go? What do you do?
I go to Hawaii. That's where I'm going to go first, I think. Haven't been there.
That's the hill you're going to die on?
Exactly.
That's the volcano you're going to die on?
Yeah, might as well. Actually, like Joe in the volcano, or Joe versus volcano, I think I might go out the similar way. Why not? And
that one volcano is blowing its top, so you could last second if you feel like the alien death would be worse.
Yeah.
Boom. Take the plunge.
Because there'd have to be like a judgment call there at the scene.
In
your head.
Yeah.
A quick one.
Well, you got to think of what people. I mean, what would people would panic, right? Clearly,
right.
Me too. If this thing turns and comes our way,
that's a good point.
There might be some troubling.
Yeah, might be tough
decisions.
To get out. Yeah. But this week, we did have a really special guest. Travis Walton joined us. He is probably Arizona's most famous abduction case that happened 1975. It's been 50 years since he says he and his 6-man crew, they walked into the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest up there by Heber and Snowflake. And at night, they saw something in the sky, and it turned out, they said, was a UFO, went out and looked at it, and he got hit with a blast of energy, I believe he was telling us. And then his crew left him there on the ground. They drove off, and when the time they came back with the sheriff, he was gone.
And he kind of put it in a way that he was like kind of accepting some of the responsibility that he was the one who kind of got close to it. It's like, I want to get a better look at this thing because it's going to take off. And then, oops, not so fast.
Yeah.
But what struck you most about him?
Well, again, the thing I think was important about our conversation with him is that this is the first time so much of the early interviews, really the first interview that he gave was to Cool TV, which was our predecessor before we were Fox 10 in 75. So Cool TV got to talk to him 3 months before. And then the same day that he was found, his brother Dwayne talked to our reporter at the time. And stuck out to me, I think, is just the consistency in the way that he's telling the story. I was explaining, like, when we put this together with comparing both of them, I mean, it wasn't like half of the words he was saying or 70% or 80%. To me, it was 100% of what he was saying verbatim was what he said in those few months after this had happened. And that was extraordinary, I thought.
Michael Obi, are you in a position to join us? You were wondering if that was just because after rehearsing it for 50 years, that might just be stuck in your brain, or do you think that was more, I mean, he's sticking to his story, that's what it is, and that's what it's going to be?
I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning, so for him to remember something from 30 years ago, I just think, and the story being the exact same, and then what's the benefit of making that story up? It only caused him trouble back in the day, and probably to a certain extent people still think he's crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the very least, I think he believes the story.
Right.
I don't think he's making it up.
And that's a good point you make, Mike, where also the backstory, which I think we can tell people, where this wasn't an easy journey for him to come to the studios that night when we did it. This was on, a Sunday evening where he had just traveled from Snowflake, where he still lives, since this happened. So 3.5 hours, he comes over to Phoenix to meet us in studio, but just, went to his grandchild's birthday and then came and was really gracious with his time to do that. But again, this wasn't a paid interview. We don't do paid interviews.
Didn't even
Fox
get a coffee
10.
mug out of it.
Nope.
From what I could tell.
Just wanted to tell it and, have us ask him some questions about it. And I was really impressed with that, just the way that he did that. But I thought how you had asked him with what was it like to spend 50 years in the same place where this had happened to you, when you got the hell out of Dodge after that had happened. And I believe we have a soundbite if we can listen to it real quick with his answer.
It's stuck to me like glue. So I can take on the role of being, that nutcase over there, or go ahead and fight the fight and, push back against that. What happened. It was real. If you had 7 people say they witnessed a murder and testify to that, open and shut case.
There are some people in this town who don't believe your story.
Yeah, but they don't tell me that to my face.
How do you respond to them?
I want to be believed because that is my reputation and it is people's attitudes toward me through my life. When he was hit by the beam, well, we took off, went up the road here.
That's the question. Why'd you leave?
I think if you'd have been here, you would know that. We left because it was such a thing to happen, I don't know how to explain it. It was just very frightening, and seeing Travis get knocked down like that was by something that we'd never seen before, and I guess you just say fear of the unknown.
That, once again, is the story. Whether you believe it or not is your business. What they saw in this clearing was to them a UFO. Jim Ryerson, Cool News 10, in the Sitgreaves National Forest.
Man, why did you stay there and deal with all that came with it? I mean, can you imagine? I was thinking last night, I heard, as I do every night, a couple of bumps and weird noises outside my house, and I'm instantly up and on alert.
Right.
He believes that whatever happened to him. How do you even walk out of your house? How do you go on with your life without just being scared of your shadow?
I don't know. And especially too, like you said, I mean, where you're still living by the place where this happened, where you were abducted and taken somewhere, I would think that would terrify you from ever wanting to go in the woods again, on the chance that you could see something like that. And it was interesting, though, to talk to him about the journey after you asked him that question, but the journey of how his feelings on this have changed over the years, where at first it was more of a nightmare with thinking, okay, these horrific beings were standing over me and, what actually happened, but changing to his perspective now, which that they were trying to help him, that they were trying to repair his body. And now I know if anybody's seen the early 90s film A Fire in the Sky, which was based on his earlier take on that, it is, they don't pull any punches on making that a little frightening, with the beings and the ship and everything else, and how he's like strapped to the table. Yeah. But again, he said his interpretation of what exactly happened, that's not the case, that they weren't trying to hurt him, that they were trying to help him.
Because he was physically injured when whatever
this
hit him,
this blast of energy.
Next thing you knew, he's on some kind of operating table. At first I was like, you mean in a normal hospital? And no, it was
which is what he said too. I thought it was doctors and nurses that were hanging over me, but man, I can't even imagine. But like you said, how do you process that later in life, where you get a bump in the night, you get whatever, and like you said, he has children and grandchildren. I would just think too, like that experience of caring for others and knowing what maybe you believe to happen, that's pretty frightening. So.
And the words he used back then, not only the thoughts and ideas and generalities, but pretty much word for word 50 years later.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
Extraordinary. Now, the other thing too, which we had in our first time with our Cool TV Fox 10 archives, was the state polygrapher for Arizona Department of Public Safety, Cy Gilson. He had held a press conference talking about the results for all these men and what they had determined. And I think we have that clip where we can watch. It's pretty extraordinary.
They did, in fact, see something which they believed to be a UFO, and that is strictly what the polygraph proved, that they did, in fact, see something. It does not determine that there was, in fact, a UFO. It determines strictly that they did see something which they believed to be a UFO.
Gilson said 5 of the 6 tests showed conclusively that the men were telling the truth.
Wow. So he did
all of them.
Right. And the other part, which we're running out a little bit of a time here, but when we watched that with Travis, he said, that really pisses me off. That line that 6 of the 7 were telling, or 5 of the 6 were telling the truth. The one, was inconclusive, and he had clarified that was the gentleman who I think, he was having a beef with.
Yeah.
They kind of show it in the movie too, which is interesting, where the guy's trying to fell a tree on Travis. But he had iterated the point that this guy was tested again in the weeks after by Cy Gilson and passed his polygraph. And the story, at least from the gentlemen that are still alive on that crew, who have had, a rocky relationship for different reasons, they still stand by their stories.
And just to be clear, he came in here, he did not have any rules for us, any guidelines. He was an open book.
Yep.
And, believe what you want to believe. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I really have never been a believer necessarily, but I believe he was credible.
He was telling the truth according to him.
Yeah.
For sure. And that full interview's up right now if you want to watch it, but we'd love to hear from you as well.
Guys, I think the one way to put this all to bed is, and I know anytime I've had a medical procedure, no matter where it's at, I'm going to need that exorbitant hospital bill that he got from the aliens like 3 months later. If he can provide that, I think that's all I need.
They have free healthcare there, dude. They have free healthcare.
Intergalactic is free
I'm guessing.
offer?
Yes.
I mean, if you can get all the way here from wherever your planet is, maybe healthcare is not.
It's not your biggest
workplace
worry,
injury,
Yeah.
So they're like,
you would hope they would have
injured with the
workers'
ship,
comp.
So.
At least.
How does OSHA work in space? How can you verify that claim? You fall off the intergalactic ladder.
Get a good lawyer.
No gravity, so.
This show isn't sponsored, Brian. We can't do that right now.
Can we get a sponsor?
No, there's no sponsorship for us. I think it's actually in the rules.
There's got to be a law team or something that can help us out.
Well, we got a nice comment from Cynthia there that this is one of the best choices for content I've seen on Fox. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Again, more coming down the line. We're really excited about 2026. A lot of topics that I think people want to know about, and a lot of Arizona history too, which I just moving to Arizona, not being a native Arizonan, to realize that this state has such a rich history.
It does. I remember getting here just from not history necessarily, but the news business, and things would happen clear across the country, and there would always be a connection to Arizona. It was strange.
Seems like it. Yeah. Well,
10 seconds.
Hey, welcome back to Fox 10 Talks. We're me and Trenton and guess our special guest, Brian Kae, the man. He and I are. They may charge us rent soon if we keep going out to Fountain Hills. You know,
Right.
That's our little go-to pad.
We're like residents there.
Almost residents.
Yeah.
We were telling Trenton, and he knows about it, but our latest trip there was about the birthday of the fountain, which was Monday, right?
Yeah, the 55th anniversary, birthday, whatever. They're celebrating 55 years.
And that lily pad out in the middle of, which looks kind of maybe small, medium size. Not so much when you get out there. Check it out, BK.
Wow.
What were you
Yeah,
thinking?
it's huge. That like
Kind
when
of looks
you're-
like a UFO.
It does.
Very much so.
When you're out, on the shore and looking at this thing, it looks small, but when you
Right.
get out there, it's huge.
Yeah. Now you had to take a boat
Yes.
to get there, correct?
Yeah, we took
and
a
the
boat.
and the water too. Can you tell us about the water?
Drink the water.
Yeah.
Don't get wet. I mean, if you fall in, that's tough luck, right? You got to
Yeah.
swim out, but
Look
yeah,
at that shot. Wow.
It's recycled
it's
water.
recycled.
Would you go Tempe Town Lake or Fountain
Reclaimed
Hills?
water, reclaimed water.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Ooh.
Tempe Town Lake.
We should do
or
a
Fountain
poll
Hills?
question on
Ooh, yikes!
Ooh.
Which one would you swim
No, I don't
If you
know.
were really
I mean,
thirsty.
you'll have to
Oh,
get,
drink?
in? Oh, drink. Wow.
Drink, not
We'd
just
love the
swim?
challenge.
Okay, is it just to drink, or are we getting something out of it? Like you're getting $500
No,
or
just-
something?
Just jumping in, I would
jumping
say.
in.
Drink, we are.
No reward.
It's pretty
No
green
reward.
right
Just
there.
infamy.
Well, they do dye the fountain green on St.
okay.
Patrick's
I think
Day,
that's
so I
the
wonder if
residual.
that's like in Chicago
Oh,
when
yeah.
they dye the river, it kind of stays
I
there
think
all
that's
year.
Well,
just
I'm impressed
green,
it
dude.
stays green.
Yeah.
Yeah, year
But
round.
we had to go out on a boat, and then there's a ladder on the side of that thing.
Yeah, I think I just saw that.
And
So what's it like when you're walking on the thing?
it's kind of I don't
Because is it tethered down?
you're kind of worried because they tell you this thing was built in 1970 and it's the greats
So
from
was Brian.
1970. I don't think they've updated. I don't think they updated it too much, but I mean, people go out there for maintenance and stuff, so people do go out there. But when you're walking, it's you're on a grate and you're looking down. And they say it's 20 feet high, and you can see the water below you. So
Anytime there's a ladder involved,
Wow.
Michael,
That's
help
20
me out here.
it's
You're
20
getting
feet?
into danger.
that's what they
Yeah.
said. 20 feet
Holy
above the
cow.
water. I mean,
That does
it
not
was
look like. I mean, just
pretty
the
high.
perspective of where that shot was.
Yeah.
It did not look like 20 feet.
Yeah,
I mean, wow.
and you had to climb up a ladder.
There's
Yeah,
a-
there's
that
a
doesn't
ladder
look like
right
20
there.
feet to me.
Yeah. Well, you get.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
You get up
It's
there.
up there.
You get up there.
And yeah. So anyway, that was fun, and I don't think
Yeah.
they said they hadn't remembered any media going out there before.
No,
so
we're
that
the
was
That's awesome.
first ones ever.
trailblazers.
Wow.
Probably the last
Yeah.
one.
Worried
And
to
the
turn the
last-
fountain on.
Like we're never inviting
Right.
anybody on that again.
Well, they-
who doesn't work for Fountain Hills?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Mike makes a good point if they accidentally turned on
No,
the fountain.
they made.
Well-
yeah, that was.
So that was
a
the
lot
thing.
of power there.
We had to go in trips. So Brian went first on the boat out there.
So they're gonna be like a
And they
survivor
came
to
back,
tail to tail?
yeah, they came back to get me, went out on the lily pad, and then when they left, he was the first one to go. And so I was on the lily pad by myself. And that I had thoughts like, if this thing turns on,
Right.
what am
Your
I going
mind
to do?
went there in
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah, my mind went
Because
there.
you should not be on it when it goes
Yeah.
off.
That's a fear I did not know that I would have. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, the guy that built it, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because am I wrong that he was the same a planner designer for Havasu City?
Yes.
In
For the-
Disneyland, right?
The London
Right,
Bridge.
in Disneyland.
Yeah.
And he had a falling out, correct, with Walt Disney, I believe. I read about this where I might be speaking a little bit out of pocket, but when he was building Lake Havasu, got in a little bit of a falling out because he was listing himself as, the builder of Disneyland, and Walt didn't like that.
Well, BK and I will never have a falling out.
No.
I give him.
Well, there's
all
no
the
question
credit.
that, either of you
People
did not do something in that
People ask,
magazine.
have asked you, does Brian Webb tell you to do this, tell you to do that, and you just start laughing because it's
Right.
the complete opposite, other way
yeah.
around.
Opposite. I'm telling him
I
what
just
to do.
whatever he tells me to do.
Exactly. And it definitely helps that your initials are pretty much interchangeable at this point.
B team, the
B
B
team.
team.
Exactly.
That's what we call it.
So it's inseparable. But So that's I just think it's neat, but they're obviously super proud of that in that city where it is not only their name, but it is kind of the center of town.
Put it on the map.
It's the reason why the town's there. They built the fountain so people.
You got to love the spirit though that of the guy who did it, where he's like, I've got an idea. We're going to do this, and we're going to draw people, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, they already apparently had the hills. They just needed the fountain, and there we go. 55 years later.
And it was the tallest fountain for the longest time.
Yeah, good point.
That's what, the third
and
or
they
fourth?
cranked it up for us that day.
They did.
They cranked it up on
560 feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good stuff.
If you throw money in it, is it good luck?
No. It's actually...
It's not
that's why it's green?
It's
No.
And don't throw a penny in there because that might be worth more if you hang on to it.
You need to save it for the down payment.
Right.
You can't afford on the house. Yes.
Good stuff, BK.
Yeah.
Love it,
guys.
Man.
Awesome.
Don't forget to watch our What's in the Name Arizona. Jerome is killing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
On YouTube,
Jerome.
we have like 12K views.
That's awesome.
So if you haven't checked it out and you're not part of that group, go check it out.
And for anybody who hasn't seen What's in the Name Arizona, what I enjoy most about it is you guys tell it in different segments where it's like, here's a really cool thing, but then here's a cool thing, and then the thing you weren't expecting. It feels like, in these episodes with these towns.
We try to hook it on how did it get its name. It's kind of our reason for going there. And sometimes it's interesting. A lot of times it's named after some miner or some rich lawyer in Jerome who funded the mine, but
or a terrible tragedy that came to it.
Yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Then we find the fun stuff and we throw that in there and show some beautiful shots of the city or town, and that's how we do it.
That's what BK does.
Yeah. So, and
we have a question on what's the next city.
Well, let's think about that. I mean, we want to go to Sholo.
Definitely.
Tombstone. That would be a good one.
Bisbee.
Bisbee.
What's the one with the mules running around way out there? Drive.
Now I can't think of it.
No.
Shoot. Now I can't think of it.
Drive time is an issue for us because we need to shoot this in a day. And drive back there and back. So
have you guys done Phoenix yet?
I don't know. See, Phoenix it'd be so big. We might have to have like a 2-parter, 3-parter.
This is supposed to be about
this small town, small cities.
Is the idea.
I mean, we did do Scottsdale.
Buckeye.
That's a pretty prominent area.
That's true. That's the most prominent we've done.
Yeah.
But it's supposed, we
would eventually get to Phoenix and like Tucson and Flagstaff, I think.
Kind of has to be the finale, Phoenix.
The finale.
The finale. Boom.
Will
there be a finale? That'd be sad.
Or we just keep going.
I hope not.
Once we run out of Arizona, we'll move over to either California or Mexico or Colorado or wherever.
Here we come.
Or Utah.
Yeah. Watch out.
Lots of fun in Four Corners.
What's in a name, USA?
Right.
There you go.
Well,
all right,
BK, always a pleasure.
Man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Watch it now.
Yep.
Well,
let's
switch gears. There's lots going on. In Brentwood, California, with the horrific news as it happened. Now, Brian, let's just recap a little bit. But on Sunday, when we first heard about that, I believe it was actually Mike you talked about in the newsroom that this had happened and let us know. But that was pretty much right before we were going to go on air.
Rob and Michelle Reiner killed in their own home. And even at that point, it's one of those weird news things where we were hearing some rumblings about family members, right? But we couldn't report it. Remember, we couldn't quite go there yet. And now we know the son has been charged with these crimes. So it was a rough weekend all around with all the news that was going on, from the synagogue to Brown University to
just wouldn't stop
to LA. But I think we have Mike. We have Amalia Roy.
Amalia.
Yeah. Hi, Amalia. Thanks for joining us today.
She is.
Yes, good afternoon. There was a hearing today, but it was a pretty quick hearing. We expected Nick Reiner to enter a plea, but his lawyer asked the judge to push his arraignment back until January 7th. Today, Reiner walked into court wearing handcuffs and a suicide prevention vest. His lawyer is high-profile defense attorney Alan Jackson, who's represented Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey during their trials. After today's hearing, Jackson spoke to reporters asking for patience in the legal process.
Very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. Those need to be thoroughly but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed.
we're still working to piece together a clear timeline of events. There are reports of an argument between Rob, Michelle, and Nick Reiner Saturday night during a Christmas party at Conan O'Brien's house. And we know police were called to the house around 3:30 p.m. local time Sunday. Reiner was seen walking by a gas station near his parents' house before midnight Saturday. And we now have new surveillance video from Sunday night. Here you can see him walking in and out of this gas station twice before buying a drink, then walking back out towards the street. This is shortly before police arrested Reiner around 9 p.m., around 15 miles from his parents' house. Today, the Reiner family released a statement saying, in part, words cannot even begin to describe the unimaginable pain we are experiencing every moment of the day. The horrific and devastating loss of our parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, is something that no one should ever experience. The statement goes on to thank everyone for their kindness and asks for privacy. In Los Angeles, Amalia Roy, Fox 10 News.
Hey, Amalia, you're doing great out there. Really appreciate that report. We have about a little more than a minute left. I wanted to ask you, now, Alan Jackson, the attorney for Reiner that's there, that we played that soundbite with, he's had some pretty high-profile clients, Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and then Karen Reed, which we had that trial just recently. Now, can you talk a little bit about your thoughts with his personality, with his expertise, with changing how all this is going to unfold?
Yes, we're still looking to piece together exactly what's going to happen because we know that we're not going to get an arraignment until after the new year. So until then, we don't even know how Nick Reiner will plead, whether guilty or not guilty. But we are following along, listening along, and trying to get as much information as we can to see how this is all going to unfold.
Okay, Amalia Roy, live with us from Los Angeles on a heartbreaking story. Amalia, thank you for your time.
Great work.
Ooh, boy, that's a tough one. I was going to ask her what the scene was around the house. I'm sure there are media.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but they're probably all up and down
exactly.
the street.
The other thing that we were talking about today is that, again, this is kind of the exclusive of exclusive enclaves of Hollywood icons that live here in Brentwood. But we had the trial of the century, last century, with the O.J. Simpson case that happened, Nicole Brown Simpson, and then, of course, with the murder that happened there with Ron Feldman as well. But this could be our trial of the century here, where that was 2 miles away.